For nearly 2 centuries, the Christian and Muslim worlds clashed in a series of brutal wars that changed history forever. These were not just battles for land, they were battles for faith, power, and the very soul of civilization. Welcome to the full story of the Crusades. The Crusades were a series of religious wars initiated, supported, and sometimes even led by the Latin Church in medieval Europe, mainly against Muslim states in the Middle East, particularly to recapture the Holy Land, especially Jerusalem. The Catholic Church encouraged knights and kings to fight for Christ, promising eternal salvation and forgiveness of sins. Jerusalem, sacred to Christians, Jews, and Muslims, was under Muslim control since the 7th century. The Byzantine Empire, threatened by Seljuk Turks, asked Pope Urban II for military aid. European nobles sought land, wealth, and titles. Crusades also reduced internal wars in Europe by directing aggression outward. For knights and commoners alike, the crusade was seen as a divine mission and a path to glory. Called by Pope Urban II at the Council of Clermont in 1095, goal: recapture Jerusalem. Leaders included Godfrey of Bouillon, Raymond of Toulouse, and Beaumont of Taranto. Events included the massacre of Jews in Europe, the siege of Antioch, and the siege and capture of Jerusalem in 1099. This led to the establishment of Crusader states: Jerusalem, Antioch, Edessa, and Tripoli. The outcome was a Christian success, but tens of thousands of Muslims were massacred in Jerusalem. So, the fall of Edessa to Muslim forces in the year 1144 really set things in motion. The major Christian leaders who responded were King Louis VII of France and Emperor Conrad III of Germany. On the Muslim side, Imad al-Din Zengi led the charge, and after him his son Nur al-Din continued the fight. The Crusaders launched their campaign, but, one of the key events was the failed siege of Damascus. In the end, the outcome was pretty clear. It was a Christian failure. And honestly, Muslim resistance only grew stronger after that. The trigger for the Third Crusade came in 1187, when Sultan Saladin defeated the Crusaders at the Battle of Hattin and recaptured Jerusalem. The Christian leaders who stepped up were Richard the Lionheart from England, Philip II from France, and Frederick Barbarossa of the Holy Roman Empire, though, well, he drowned on the way there. The main events included the sieges of Acre and Jaffa. The Crusaders fought Saladin fiercely, but they just couldn't recapture Jerusalem. The outcome was a peace treaty, which allowed Christians safe pilgrimage to Jerusalem, but Saladin retained control of the city. The original goal this time was to attack Egypt, which was a major Muslim stronghold, and then try to recapture Jerusalem. But things took a surprising turn. The Crusaders ended up being diverted to Constantinople, which, ironically, was a Christian city. In 1204, they actually sacked and looted Constantinople. The outcome? Well, it was a huge disgrace for the church, and it really deepened the divide between Catholics and Orthodox Christians. And to top it off, there was no action taken against Muslims at all. The focus of the Fifth Crusade was Egypt. Christian leaders included King Andrew II of Hungary and later John of Brienne. The outcome? Well, the Crusaders managed to capture Damietta, but they lost it again. In the end, it was a Muslim victory under Sultan al-Kamil, who was actually the nephew of Saladin. This time, the leader was Emperor Frederick II. Interestingly, there were no major battles during this crusade. The outcome was quite unique. Frederick negotiated the peaceful return of Jerusalem to the Christians, but, the city returned to Muslim control in 1244. The Seventh Crusade was led by King Louis IX of France, with Egypt once again as the main focus. So here's what happened. The Crusaders captured Damietta again, but Louis himself was captured and later ransomed. The outcome? Another Muslim victory, and honestly, Crusader morale was really weakened after this. The leader was King Louis IX once again. The goal this time was to attack Tunis in North Africa, but the outcome was far from what was hoped for. Louis died of disease, and honestly the crusade ended pretty quickly after that. The leader here was Edward I of England. The goal was a final attempt to aid the remaining Crusader states. The outcome, though, was short-lived, and by the year 1291, all Crusader strongholds, including Acre, fell to the Muslims. At this point, the Crusades had, well, effectively ended. Imad al-Din Zengi took Edessa, Nur al-Din united Syria, Salah al-Din Ayyubi, also known as Saladin, liberated Jerusalem, and became a legendary Muslim hero. Sultan al-Kamil negotiated with Frederick II, Sultan Baybars, the Mamluk ruler who, crushed Crusader remnants, Sultan Qalawun and al-Ashraf Khalil, the final defenders who expelled Crusaders from the Levant. On Europe, there was the rise of centralized monarchies. There was also the growth of trade with the East. The Crusades, honestly, sparked the Renaissance through contact with Islamic learning. The Catholic Church saw an increase in power, at least temporarily. Meanwhile, the Byzantine Empire was weakened. On the Muslim world, initial disunity, turned into stronger regional powers. There was the rise of Saladin's Ayyubid dynasty, and later the Mamluks. You also had cultural and technological exchange, but there was a permanent distrust toward the West. On relations, the Crusades deepened the Christian-Muslim divide and, laid the foundation for later colonialism and Orientalism. The Crusades were a violent clash of ideologies, cultures, and ambitions. From the sacred battlefields of Jerusalem to the shattered walls of Constantinople, these wars shaped the medieval world and left echoes that still resonate today. Faith, empire, greed, and glory. This was the true story of the Crusades. If you found this video informative, share and subscribe for more deep historical documentaries. History is not just in the past, it shapes our present.
Ready for a history adventure? Join our community. Subscribe to World History, smash that like, share with friends, and drop your thoughts below. Let's make history together. See you in the comments.